So you're thinking about studying in Australia. Amazing. But before you pack your bags and book that one-way ticket, let me save you from making some very common mistakes that could totally mess up your experience. Today we're talking about what not to do when studying in Australia, because trust me, I've seen people make these mistakes and I don't want that to be you. So let's get into it. Number one, don't work more than the allowed hours. I know some people might influence you that it doesn't matter, or you might be tempted, but this is one of the super important rules for international students to abide by when they're on a student visa. Your student visa only allows you to work 48 hours per fortnight for work while classes are in session. If you go over that, you could get into some serious trouble with immigration if someone catches you. And trust me, the last thing you want is a visa cancellation because of some extra shifts you wanted to do. Now, when classes aren't in session, you are given that freedom to work unlimited hours, but that is the situation right now. Make sure to check it when you come here and make the most of that time, because that wasn't in place when I was a student. So that is definitely a perk. Number two, don't ignore plagiarism rules. Australian universities take plagiarism really seriously. If you don't know what that means, it's essentially making sure your work is original and authentic and that you didn't just copy it from somewhere. Especially ChatGPT these days can get you in a lot of trouble. Even if you copy just a little bit without referencing properly, you could fail your assignments. I've seen how thorough the plagiarism platforms are. They quote everything that you might have copied from somewhere, so they would know if you don't reference and just copied and pasted from somewhere. And if you do that repeatedly, you might even get kicked out because you're not abiding by the university assignment rules. So do yourself a favor, cite your sources, and don't just copy and paste from somewhere. Make sure you're making the most out of your degree and producing original thoughts and work. And if you don't know how to do that, your university might run some workshops around this. I know UTS does. It's called HELPS, where they teach you how to write assignments, how to cite your sources, and all sorts of that stuff. So make sure to check out if your university runs workshops around this. Don't also make the mistake of working without the right certifications here in Australia. So if you want to work in hospitality, maybe as a bartender or waiter, you need an RSA, that is the Responsible Service of Alcohol certificate. You could do this online, and if you don't have this, you can't serve alcohol or work in those alcohol environments, because Australia takes that very seriously. So if you get caught by someone and you don't have that certificate, you are not supposed to be working that job. Same with construction jobs, you will need a white card. Basically, if you want to work in Australia, you will need some sort of check or certification. Like I work in childcare, I needed working with children's check. It's pretty easy, you just prove your identity online when applying for it to make sure you have no past records and stuff like that. And you might even need a first aid certificate in some babysitting or child-related jobs. Here's another one. Don't also assume classes are optional. Look, I get it. Sometimes classes feel pointless and skipping a 8 a.m. lecture sounds amazing. But here's the thing, some universities and courses require attendance. And if you miss too many and you don't think it's that important, you could literally fail the course. So make sure the classes you enroll in fit your schedule and you can make them. But if not, set that alarm, grab a coffee and just show up. You've worked really hard to get there, so don't make the mistake of missing some classes for extra shifts or just doing other activities. You are there to study, so make the most out of it. Here's another important one. Don't forget your TFN, that is your tax file number. This one is for my fellow first-time workers in Australia. If you don't get a tax file number, TFN, you'll be taxed way more than you should be. I've explained this in another video about how to freelance in Australia step by step. It's online, it's free to apply. Don't believe anyone that says you have to pay for it. So just do it and thank me later. Now let me hold your hand when I say this, but Australian sun is no joke, okay? I am brown. I used to believe that the sun doesn't affect me, but the UV rays here are really high, and the likelihood of skin cancer in Australia is really high because of the UV rays. So don't assume you'll be fine here without sun cream, without any sun protection. Always wear sun cream. And there are a lot of precautions you can take, like wear long sleeve shirts, seek some shade, put on high SPF sun cream. So don't make the mistake of underestimating the Australian sun and forgetting sun protection. Now, if you're from a country that does public transport really well, Don't assume the same when you're in Australia. I've made a whole other video about transport in Australia and its different cities. But unlike countries where transport runs all night, in Australia a lot of buses and trains stop early. So check your train times. Don't assume public transport will be running all the time, otherwise you might end up paying for a very expensive Uber home, or worse, being stranded. Don't also make the mistake of only sticking to your own cultural group. Australia is really multicultural, and I get it, when you're in a new country it's so much easier to stick with the people you know, people from a similar country you are from. But try to step out of your comfort zone, join clubs, meet locals, talk to classmates, put yourself out there. You'll make lifelong friends and improve your English if that's something you're working on. And yes, Australian people are really independent, so you'll feel lonely sometimes, but that's where you have to step out of your comfort zone, go out there even if you don't know anyone, and just make the most out of your time in Australia. And if you do, don't forget about Aussie slang. Where do I even start? I've made a whole other video on this, but in short, some of the words that you might need to be aware of is Arvo means afternoon, Macca's is McDonald's. At first it's a lot to understand and take in, but you'll get used to it, and if you go watch my video you'll be a little bit more prepared and not lost in conversations. Also, Australia has cute animals, but some of them can actually kill you. So if you see a warning sign in nature, believe it. No touching wild animals, no swimming where jellyfish or sharks are. I know this is specifically a problem in far north Queensland and WA, so don't assume every water can be swam in. Check if there are wildlife warning signs, and don't go poking around random spiders. It's that simple. You might think it can't kill you, but don't ignore Australian wildlife. And finally, don't rely too much on part-time work here. Yes, working part-time is great. Minimum wage is one of the highest in the world, but don't rely on it too much. Jobs can be competitive, shifts aren't always guaranteed, and let's be real, Australia is one of the most expensive countries in the world. So have a backup plan when you come here, and don't just rely on working and then you'll just be able to cover your costs and stuff like that. It will most probably happen after you graduate and get a job where you can work full-time and cover your costs and more. So always think a bit long-term and not just about doing part-time work as much as you can while you study, and budget wisely. Alright guys, that is my list of what not to do when studying in Australia. I hope you found all these 11 tips useful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments or DM me on Instagram. I'm posting every day on here about my life in Australia and self-development, so stick around and I'll see you next time.